Hey, it's Chuck Armstrong from Loudwire Nights, and this is Loudwire Nights On Demand. We recently caught up with Jackson Roemers, frontman of StrateJacket, a band that started in 2019, survived the pandemic, and is getting ready to release their debut album this year. This conversation first aired on Tuesday, April 30th. Here you go. Well, I have been looking forward to tonight's interview for a while. We are hanging with Jackson Roemers, frontman and guitarist for the relatively new rock band known as StrateJacket. Jackson, thank you so much for being on the show tonight.
Thank you for having me. This is super cool. We're stoked to be have you guys' attention and to do this conversation.
Absolutely,
thank
man.
you.
For sure, man. So listen, I mean, we'll just get right into it. For the uninitiated, I said StrateJacket is relatively new. I mean, you guys formed in 2019. Is that right?
We did, yeah. We played maybe 4 shows before the pandemic hit, and so we kind of felt like we were stumped at the beginning, which really took lowered our morale quite a bit when the pandemic hit. But we persevered. We got a new drummer, an amazing drummer, Nate Mangold.
Yeah.
And we set up shop in Redwood City, and we practiced for an entire year with nothing else to do. And I think it brought us together a lot and created a unbreakable bond that we carry with us to this day and play. And so when shows started booting back up again, we hit the ground running.
I mean, what kept you focused on doing that? Because it would have been very easy, right, to have just only played a few shows and have to replace your drummer to just be like, all right, we'll try something else. Like what kept you guys focused on that?
I don't think we felt like our first drummer was really doing it for us, if that makes sense. When Nate joined the band, it was like everything. It was night and day. Like everything clicked for the thing that we were trying to do. It was like putting a new engine in like an old car. Or putting like a Hemi V8 in like a Volkswagen Beetle is what it felt like. Because now we could speed down the highway together, and it was a shock of electricity. And ever since then, we were like, all right, I think there's really something here. We can be an actual band now. And not just a practice in the living room of your mom's house kind of band. We could actually do this. So we can do it for a while. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of what prompted me to reorganize the band, get a new member in there, and it really paid off, I think. We're all musicians and we work together, but we're also really close friends. So
I love that, man. I love hearing that. Well, so then, I think I've read that, kind of as the pandemic, it didn't end necessarily, but as things started to get it back to more to normal, you guys started playing shows, and you were playing anywhere you could. I mean, even under bridges or in, places that weren't the most typical concert venues. Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, that was the old school punk rock in us, I think, like when there's nowhere to play, you just have to set up your stuff somewhere and play. But there was a lot of that going on coming off the pandemic because venues weren't, housing more than 20 people at a time. So the best thing to do was to just show up to a public outside area where COVID couldn't really spread as easily. Yeah. And you could, do your distancing and stuff. So there was a lot of that going on in the city. In San Jose too, we played at skate parks. We played at beaches, under bridges in the San Jose area, and we loved every second of it, and we still like to do it to this day because it kind of grounds us a bit,
Yeah, no, I love you. I love that, man, and it really is that old school, that DIY, that punk rock ethos that you hear about, right? You don't see it that often these days, and maybe you do in pockets across the country, but it's cool that you guys and other bands were embodying that.
Yeah, I actually saw a documentary the other day about the LA punk rock scene in the 70s or something like that, where they would be playing at none of the venues wanted the bands to play because they were so different than anything else going on. And they kind of set up in like a Chinese restaurant in like Chinatown in Los Angeles and just started playing shows because the people would let them play there. And I think, that's kind of the same deal that kind of was happening in the city as well. We were just finding places to play. There was a Chinese restaurant that was hosting punk rock shows that I got the honor to play at as well before it got shut down. But it really was it really was that time for those kind of shows. So that's,
Yeah.
I guess, one of the opportunities that were given to us after the pandemic.
So you guys formed in 2019, really honed the band during the pandemic, just stayed focused, started playing these shows, less than 2 years after you started, in the middle of the pandemic still, you got a record deal. What ran through your head when you signed with Edge Out Records?
I was so stoked, just like any young musician getting a record deal is like, oh my God, like the biggest thing you can possibly do. And we signed on maybe maybe 2.5, 3 years ago now. They had us write the album, and we had 9 months to write the album, and they flew us out to Canada. I'm sorry, drove us out to Canada. They gave us money and we went to go to Canada. And we spent a month up there in Vancouver and then on Vancouver Island. And, a lot of the time with the things that were just happening, I was like, I can't believe how we were able to accomplish a dream of mine during a pandemic. Like I thought that it was going to slow everything down. I thought it was going to crush our opportunities, but if it weren't for the pandemic, we wouldn't have met our drummer Nate, who is such an important part of the band. So not a lot of good things came out of it, but we were able to make the most of our situation, I think.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, getting a record deal was the craziest thing at the time for me. And now I think it's been a while, so I can just like, all right, how do we continue doing this? Yeah. I mean,
well, and when you guys got in the studio too, right? So not just signing this record deal being such a mind blowing thing, but when you get in the studio, I mean, you're working with Brian Howes, who produced this album that you wrote, that you were in the studio recording, and he's worked with Hinder and Skillet, and the guy who mixed the album, Chris Lord, right? He's worked with everyone from Green Day to Muse to Prince. I mean, just an incredible resume from that guy, who also has a Grammy, award, a couple Grammys on his shelf. I mean, so were you just shocked by all of this, like just kind of taking a step back and seeing all this happen?
I mean, working with Brian in the studio was actually, it wasn't overwhelming as I thought it would be. Working with such a high class producer and stuff, he brought us in and he made sure, I think the magic trick that he pulls is that he just makes sure that you're having fun, and you can tell he's having fun because you can hear it in the music, just how much fun you're having making a record, I think. And he always made sure that we were just having a good time. On top of that, he has an amazing ear, and he has these incredible ideas that he sprinkled every song with. And he's also a perfectionist, which is important, making a record. But really, it was the atmosphere that he created that allowed us to really enjoy the experience and not feel overwhelmed about it. As for Chris Lord-Alge, I knew who Chris Lord-Alge was for years and years because I studied those Green Day records front to back, so I knew everyone who was involved in those. So when he got on board, I can't even put it into words. It was like, wow, I can't believe I get to work with one of my heroes, one of the people that put together my favorite records of all time. And we got the opportunity to meet him up in NAMM, and he's such a fun guy to be around, and he really knows what he's talking about. And that was just a magical experience.
You talk about Brian, making things fun in the studio, or letting you have fun, and that comes through the music. And then you talk about Chris and just the work he's done with bands like Green Day and how meaningful that is to you. You hear that, right? You hear that on the new song Bad Start, the title track to this album that you recorded in Vancouver. You hear that, I think that love and passion for Green Day, but you also hear that fun, that you're having fun. And Bad Start's, if you just read the lyrics, not necessarily the funnest song, but the way you guys play it and sing it and the way that it was arranged and put together, like, man, it's one of the just instantly catchy, it's so much fun to crank up and to listen to. Is that than a good representation of the rest of the Bad Start album?
You know, I think it is that energy of even though it's kind of a snotty song, the energy of fun is ever present throughout the record. I think that we do take some turns that I don't think people will expect us to make. And that was because I looked at this record as something that, you know, if this is the only record I get to make, I want to show every side of what we can do, you know, like I don't think I'm ever gonna stop thinking that way. Like, this could be our last record, this could be our last song. It has to be showing all sides of us, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Bad Start was honestly a song that we didn't even know if we were going to put on the record, because we didn't know if we loved it as much as some other songs. It wasn't until it came out and we started playing some shows with the song and hearing, you know, people sing it back to us is probably one of, like, that makes me fall in love with the song over and over again every time we play it. So it was really not the song itself that made me fall in love with it. It was how the people reacted to it that made me realize how much fun the song is, you know?
And he ended up naming the album, right?
yeah, exactly. And we've got like this music video idea coming out for it too. And I mean, it's fun. It's a fun thing. It's a fun engine for the band to run on, that song. So I used to not love it, and now it's one of my favorites. So I'm excited. I know that's kind of crazy, but
no, I love hearing that, man. I love that. And you know, you mentioned playing this live and seeing the you know, just the audience react and seeing it back to you. You've got a few shows on the calendar as of right now, a couple massive festivals like Welcome to Rockville and Aftershock. I get the feeling though that you're going to start filling in dates soon. I mean, do you have plans for touring the country this year?
We do. We actually went on a small mini tour, maybe a month and a half ago. We were on tour. We played New Mexico. We went to Texas, Nevada, and Los Angeles. We kind of just did a little stretch around the down the south of the country and back up again. But yeah, I'm hoping for more dates, because we had a little bit of an issue with getting some shows booked and how that was working out. But we've got a situation now, so I'm just kind of waiting in the shadows, ready to play. You know, that's something I'm really excited for. Touring
Awesome.
And traveling with my two friends are something that are one of the biggest reasons I wanted to play in a band. So
sweet.
Yeah.
I love it. Is there an official release date for Bad Start yet for the album?
There is not. I can say for sure that it's this year, and it's probably going to be the summertime.
Sweet. Good, man. Well,
yeah.
I can't wait for that. So, you know, last question, but as fast as things have moved for StrateJacket, it seems, you're kind of at this place where, you know, Bad Start isn't out yet, but you finished it. You've been sitting on it, ready to release it. Are you already thinking about what's next as far as your music goes, or are you trying to slow down a bit and just kind of soak all of this up in the moment?
I'm thinking about like what's next after what's next. You know what I mean? Like I'm like
yeah.
I'm thinking like 5 years ahead. I'm the way that I write songs it's not just like, all right, time to go to work and write songs. It's just like every single day. It's, I think, how I try to interpret the world, and it's the only thing that makes me happy. Allows me to understand things is to make music about it. So it never feels like it's time to go to work on the second record. It's more just like, all right, if I had to, we could put out 3 records right now, you know, like, but obviously we have to take our time and be strategic about it. But yeah, I'm definitely someone who, when it comes to music, I have a vision for the things and how I want things to go all the way, you know, years and years in the future. I'm not like that with anything else in my life. I'm more of just a see what happens kind of guy, live in the moment. But when it comes to music, because it means so much to me, I see it all in my head. And yeah, that's kind of how we work, or how I work.
Yeah. How long have you been wanting to do this, man? Like, is this something since you were a little kid that this has been a dream?
Yeah, I've been playing guitar since I was about 9 or 10 years old. I was playing in blues bands in high school with a bunch of older guys who were just playing in San Jose. That's kind of how I wanted to gain experience. And I was lucky enough to be good enough for them to want to play with me and have me give me a shot and let me just jam with them. And so I would show up sometimes with my parents to restaurants in San Jose and play. That was my first experience playing live kind of music like that. But I've always wanted to be in a band. I'm pretty sure I knew that from the first couple minutes I started playing guitar, like, oh yeah, this is something I really want to do. And it stuck. And I'm lucky enough now that I get to do it,
Yeah.
No matter where it goes or how far we make it, it's a dream come true.
Amen, man. Jackson Roemers, a Straight Jacket. Thank you so much for hanging tonight. I know we're just like scratching the surface on everything, and this is just really the beginnings of this band and all that you're going to do and all that you're capable of. And I cannot wait to see what's to come for you and to get my hands on Bad Start when it comes out, hopefully, this summer, sometime this year. And we got to make sure to get you and the rest of the guys back on the show to hang sometime very soon, man.
Yes. Thank you so much, Chuck, for everything. This was a blast. I'm always kind of worried when we do these interviews and don't always know what to say, but it felt very relaxing. So thank you very much for making this a really fun experience.
That wraps up this episode of Loudwire Nights on Demand. Stay caught up with everything happening in the world of rock and metal on the Loudwire app and at loudwire.com.